I'm Tommy Salmons. This is year zero. Today I got a special guest with me, former Border Patrol agent and also a veteran in the armed services, Josh Childress. What's going on, Bubba?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sitting here with my dog, watching him lick the styrofoam plate after I finished eating.
Sounds like a great way. I'm a dog guy myself, but my wife's adopted some cats, so we have cats now instead of dogs. But
Oh, okay. We're getting some reception problems now. We had no reception problems until I hit record. Here we go.
that's ridiculous. All
I,
right, we can start. You
no,
want
I
to start
got you
over?
now. I got you
Okay.
now. Oh, sure, we can leave
Okay.
this in. I have a
Perfect.
sloppy podcast. Nobody listens to this
That's
because it's high quality.
well, you know, those of us who love you do.
Yeah, well, everybody listens to me because I'm self-deprecating. Like, hey, this guy makes me feel good about myself. I'm
It's
good.
fun.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and gosh, dog it, people like me.
People like me. That's right. That's the important part.
All right. So I told you before we got started, I was like, I wanted to start off with kind of like a little bit personal, not too personal, but a little
Hmm.
personal. And the first exposure most people had to you is when you popped up on the unregistered podcast. What was that, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah. And since then, you've been on Free Man Beyond the Wall a couple of times.
Yeah.
And one thing you haven't really talked about since unregistered is your personal journey since leaving Border Patrol. So I just wanted to catch up on how your mindset has shifted, like maybe how you've kind of evolved in your philosophies and how life's treating you and how you've gotten along and adjusted to life in the civilian world.
Oh wow. Um, well, as far as like my journey, my like philosophical journey, um, I guess to boil it down to one more word is like radical. Uh, I guess once I got the ball rolling, and I- I've kind of I've kind of distilled my whole idea of turning my back on immigration policy down to and I roll this in with how I feel about our wars and our military now. I have distilled it down to essentially, hey, I see people as people rather than as nations or groups or races or any like I just try to look at people as people.
Right.
And every group of people, has their flaws and it has their positives, and every individual has flaws and positives. So, that's really what I've tried to look at the world as. But yeah, I mean, pretty much since I've kind of made that decision and left the Border Patrol, left military life, um, I've just kind of taken that route. I've learned more about immigration law since I left the Border Patrol than I ever learned in the Border Patrol, and learned how much of a flawed system that is.
Mhm.
Um, but I've just become, I, you know, I've started flirting with, market anarchist ideas, eschewing throwing out the old like capitalist ideas, and it's been great. Like it's been really, I don't know if fun's the right word, but like I've just really enjoyed exploring all these new ideas of how what the possibilities of a better world could be. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of the thing that drives me insane is this idea of American exceptionalism, where everybody says, land of the free, home of the brave, we're great, we're great, we're great. But yet it seems like all of our policies and all of our culture is geared towards this like closed restrictionist thinking.
It's
And
what the way I usually say it is we're so brave. We have all our policies are based on fear.
Right. That's perfect. Uh, that's perfect. Yeah. So, I guess, um, I still am, I don't know if the NAP is the right way to express it, but I'm on one hand a gun owner and a gun enthusiast. So
Hmm.
I love weapons, and I love the idea of being able to defend yourself in any situation. But at the same time, I'm also an advocate of using violence as an absolute, absolute, absolute last resort.
Right.
Like, I will 100% look like a bitch at a bar, or, you know, I will, I'll eat crow, like whatever, I don't care. I will avoid violence at any cost. But I like having that knowledge and that confidence that in the event that that doesn't work, I'll be able to handle the situation.
Right.
So, that's kind of where I part ways with, the big L libertarians. Like, NAP is not my end all be all, but like, I do try to avoid violence at any cost.
Well, the way I've
Um,
always looked at the non-aggression principle is that you're not initiating violence. You know,
right,
that you're not going out there looking for trouble. You're not, initiating the act of force against another person. But if somebody initiates force against you, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
right. And I guess where I detract from that is like, I'll let somebody call me all kinds of names, offend me, do whatever. That's fine.
Hmm.
But, um and maybe this is just kind of like, leftovers from me being a soldier and whatnot, but like, I'll jump to somebody else's defense way faster than I'll jump to my own.
Yeah.
So like, I'll start some shit over like somebody else getting called names, where I'll, maybe let myself get called those names because I don't care.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's kind of a rabbit hole, that we could go down.
Yeah.
But,
That's
um,
beside the point.
beside the point, yeah. So, yeah, I've really been, um, I guess I've felt free in ways that I didn't realize possible when, as a federal agent, I felt like I had to conform to these kind of strict ways of thinking, on one hand, because that's how you go along to get along, but on the other way is like, you get a background check every 5 years. So if you don't, like, if you try to like, like, split the line and be a radical and be part of the team, like, you could probably find yourself in some trouble.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Who was that? Danny Sharonson, who was writing all the anti-war articles while he was
right,
still in the military.
right.
Yeah, you would have to have the rank to pull that off.
The rank and the intelligence, and like, I don't think I'm dumb, but I may be a little bit sloppy. So I'm not like, I'm not gonna take chances trying to skirt that line
Right.
personally. Like,
Yeah.
Danny Sherton seems like a smart guy. He seemed to pull it off pretty well. I don't want to play that game personally.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did have issues. I mean, he spoke about those issues.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I mean, having the rank and in that the record behind you that showed you to be, reliably good soldier,
Right.
and, being able to speak your opinions, that's two different things. I know if you're a E4 and you're out there talking all kinds of shit, that's not going to go over real well for you.
Right. Right.
So
And I mean, leaving the border patrol, I was well liked. Like, everybody, kind of looked at me as this hard charger, go get 'em kind of guy.
mhm.
And it wasn't till like that last year where I started to pull back and question everything, that things changed. But everybody still had this kind of picture of me that I'd established throughout the rest of my career. So,
Right.
um, when I did step away, they were just, for one, they were confused, but also they didn't really give me that much shit because they're just like, well, you must know what you're doing because we've known you up to this point, so whatever, go for it.
Yeah.
So to finish the rest of your question, since the Border Patrol, um, I took a job as a maintenance technician for an apartment complex, um, which I had done some remodeling and construction work before the Border Patrol, so I was able to rely on that. I worked there for about a year. Didn't really like my boss, so I quit that, and since then I've been more or less independent contracting. Just kind of, I've got some friends in the industry that are able to kind of hand me work here and there, and I've been existing, thusly so far. Like the whole the coronavirus thing didn't really do anything to me other than I don't get my government funded daycare anymore.
Yeah.
So, like over the last, I guess since last school year, and we just started our school year back again, playing teacher on top of trying to juggle work as well. But yeah, that's about it. That brings us to the present day.
All right. Well, we were talking about we were talking a little bit about interrogation room tactics, but what you had brought up a story of when you had sat in on an interrogation, and it had to do with two brothers. One of them was acting like the other's dad, and that got me to thinking and triggered something that it I hear a lot, and it's to me it's kind of like, all right, like how true is this? I don't know how true this is, and I'm sure there's some truth to it, but I don't know if it's near as prominent as people try to make it out to be. And that is the trafficking of children. What did you see as far as that arena goes when you were down there?
So, man, that's a tough one because I was curious about that the whole time because so throughout the last couple of years was the big influx of unaccompanied children and parents with children coming across the border. And the difference there for anybody listening that doesn't know is, most people when they enter the country, they try to sneak in. They sneak and they have these methods or whatever. They watch us and they try to get past us. Now, what we were faced with was people that would just get over the fence because my whole area was fenced off.
Right.
They'd get over and just wait for us to come pick them up. And then once we picked them up, we'd get them to the station and start processing them. And, most of them would claim, try to claim asylum or, some version of, I don't want to go back home. Let me plead my case here.
Right.
But there was tons of, anywhere from, there was one instance where, we had camera systems and everything, and we watched a freaking, one of these smuggler guys drop like under 1 year's old child over the fence. And this is like, at this spot, it was probably like an 8 or 10 foot drop. Just dropped a fucking kid,
man,
over the fence. Luckily it's pretty soft sand down there, but it's like, Jesus Christ, what are we dealing with here?
Mm-hmm.
And also like, you're a parent, I'm a parent. On one hand, like you can either take it two ways. Either these parents are so irresponsible that they're letting their kids just go off without them across several countries to make it to the US, or they're so desperate.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
That they're and I'm like, I'm not myopic enough about humanity to think that there are parents that irresponsible on that big, in those big of numbers that we're seeing them come.
Yeah.
So the situation has to be desperate enough for them to let them go and pay the money to whatever the smuggler is to say, get this kid to the US. That being said, we don't know what happens between here and there. So how many of those kids have disappeared along the way? So we, that stuff, that's conjecture. I can't really speak to that. What I can speak to is the weird systems that we had set up in place to deal with these kids. We would send them to these detention facilities, which were not technically jails. They were, they're federally funded, but they're not actual, they're not run by corrections officers or anything. They're just kind of like day camps. And kids would go missing from there all the time, like runaways, essentially. And they'd ask us, well, what do we do? We're like, I don't know. We handed them over to you for you to oversee them. Like we kind of, once we don't have custody of them anymore. So whatever happens once we hand them off to you, that's you. So that was one of the.
So who's running this? Is this the Department of Homeland Security or Child Protective
Well,
Services or?
so I think it's funded by HHS.
Okay.
But they're hiring private contractors. So the money's coming from the federal government, and I think it was through HHS, but they're hiring private contractors to run these facilities. So it's not even like, and there are ICE run facilities where ICE employees actually do the overseeing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these that we were, at least here in Arizona, these were like federally funded, but completely civilian. Like there's no law enforcement nexus other than the funding. But like as far as Border Patrol goes, once we hand custody from us to them, we don't know what happens.
Right.
So one of the weird things was, I remember one specific example. For a while, we were getting a lot of Romanian gypsies, and there was one group where they came through, and I guess they just like hadn't done their homework or hadn't really been paying attention, but several of the people in the group had the exact same phone number, exact same address. So when we picked them up, basically we asked them for all their biological information, their name, date of birth, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then as for processing their case, we'd have to get a phone number and an address where we're going to send the paperwork for their court case. So I remember this one group, and this wasn't unique, but it was one that stuck out in my head because it like so many of them fell into it. So they all had the same phone number, they all had the same address, but when you asked one, he'd say, oh, my uncle lives there, oh, my aunt lives there, oh, my cousin lives there, oh, my brother lives there. Like nobody had it, like, but supposedly none of them were related. So nobody got their stories straight on that one. So that was why it stuck out. Most of the time it was just like 2 or 3 people, so it wasn't really hard to keep your story straight. This case, there was like, 8 or 10 people, and they all had a different story.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, I never knew what was going on. I don't know if this is like, are these humanitarians who are offering themselves up as like, oh, we'll let these people stay with us until they figure out what they're going to do? Or are these people part of some, disgusting syndicate that are just funneling and trafficking in these, which I don't have any like documentation for this or proof per se,
Mm-hmm.
but there was with the Romanians, supposedly evidence that those kids were being recycled back to Mexico. So basically, if if you show up as an adult, we're just going to, unless you meet the criteria of asylum, we're just going to deport you.
Right.
So they figured out easily that if you bring a kid with you, we can't just deport you. So apparently the scheme became that, at least with the Romanians, that they would bring a kid, and all their birth certificates were like handwritten, so it wasn't that hard to forge.
Right.
So you come in with a kid, you get your court date, and then you disappear. And so supposedly, this is just kind of like rumor mill. I know you were previous military, you understand rumor mill.
Mm.
Everybody talks and nobody knows what's real and what's not.
Right.
Supposedly, these kids were getting recycled back to Mexico, and we don't fingerprint anybody under 14, so you can't prove that these kids were getting recycled other than they were reusing the birth certificates.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a long, drawn-out explanation of, it's very possible that there was some human trafficking going on, but that was a constant, like, question in my mind.
Yeah, a constant head scratcher there. You're trying to figure out like exactly what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, until it's a matter of like catching somebody in the act of.
Right.
And you're probably dealing with hundreds of people a week, if not thousands or more.
Oh yeah.
So that's just, it's hard to keep it all straight in your own head, and they count on that. They count on you being confused by the numbers and the amount of faces you see,
right,
coming through there. My question would be though, like, okay, so why are Romanian gypsies going through Mexico? Is it because the flights from Romania to Mexico are so much cheaper?
So most of the Romanians would, I believe, if I remember right, like it's been a couple of years, so a lot of those memories just kind of go away. But if I remember right, most of them would go. They would fly into, so they would travel from Romania to Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and then catch a flight from Italy to Brazil, then work their way up from Brazil. And so the whole thing is these are international criminal organizations.
Right.
So they're paying a fee to some guy, in Romania. And then that guy in Romania is paying like a portion of that fee to some guy in Brazil. And that guy in Brazil is paying a portion of that fee to some guy in Mexico. So it's this whole thing where, everybody's getting a little bite of the fee. And
right.
that was a common question. We asked everybody, how much did you pay to come? And it was, I think the Chinese pay the most. We would get Chinese people every once in a while, and they'd pay $20,000, $30,000 to
right.
come. The Romanians was closer to like 10 to 15, and Guatemalans and Hondurans would pay between 5 and 10.
Yeah, because I heard just and again, this is rumor mill. This is just something I read somewhere. I don't even remember when or where, but I heard something like the coyotes on the border charge around 4,000. Like to
it just depends. So I've heard stories from guys so I spent my whole time in Arizona.
Right.
I've heard stories from guys so Rio Grande Valley in Texas is like the busiest in the country.
Right.
And I've heard stories from them where they'd catch guys, and the guys would have like a little punch card.
Mm-hmm.
So the smuggler, when the guy paid his fee to a smuggler, he'd get a card, and that card bought him 3 attempts. So, and because a place like Rio Grande Valley, they're so busy, they don't prosecute every single person. Like, we were slow enough that we prosecuted pretty much everybody.
Right.
So Rio Grande Valley, they catch you, they fingerprint you, do a quick case, and send you back. So basically, like, if you get caught, you go back, you go find that smuggler again, and hand him your card and say, hey, I got caught, can I go back again? So that you get like 3 tries, basically. so yeah, it just depends on um, if you're from Mexico, where where you're from in Mexico and where you're trying to cross.
Right.
So say like so I was in Yuma. Our whole area is fenced off. So that gave the smugglers um, the ability to charge a higher premium because it's harder to get over the fence.
Right.
So, it all goes back to the prohibition logic of the drug war and alcohol and whatever.
Did
It's
did
like
these guys ever think that they could just learn to pole vault?
no, so that's the whole thing is well, uh, so on top of the fees, there are I forget, we call them headhunters, but I don't remember if there's like an actual name for them. Um, but I was working in processing one night, and some guys brought in just a pair of guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we apped these guys and did a little search of the area and found this. It was basically like an MP5 clone in 22 caliber. So they found this gun, and so they questioned them, and they're like, "Oh no, this is for self-protection." So they questioned them further, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, we're headhunters." So basically, um, there's guys that the cartels pay to walk up and down the border and check people to make sure they paid their dues.
Oh, okay.
So if they didn't pay their dues, you either, I mean, I'm assuming you get to pay a higher fee, or they just take care of you right there. And
Right.
we've found remains all along that area that we just assume are from some kind of enforcement activity.
Right. I always heard that the cartel activity between New Mexico and Arizona at the border was probably 10 times worse than it ever was near Texas.
Probably, yeah. Texas is so big, and the Rio Grande's kind of scary for some people to get across. So that's kind of a deterrent, in itself.
Hmm.
Because so the Colorado River near Yuma, where I was working, most of the year it's like basically a gentle stream. So like, American agriculture has pulled enough of that water off that by the time the actual Colorado River gets to that's the border between California and Arizona and then down into Mexico.
Right.
Well, before you finish the border of Arizona, it dries up into a dry bed.
Hmm.
So most of the time, like you can just wade across that. Well, every once in a while, the river picks up, and people are like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
We'd apprehend people, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, that was scary." So I wonder if that's part of like what deters people in Texas is having that giant body of water
I mean, I don't
separating.
know. I know there are places where it's not real deep, where it's
Okay.
about waist deep, but I couldn't. I mean, I've never been in the Rio Grande,
Yeah,
so I couldn't
and
tell you for sure where.
I mean, part of it just depends on who's running the cartel. Like during the time that I was there, we saw a couple of leadership changes in the cartels, and it was definitely like it was noticeably different in their methods, um, and how they how frequently they would attempt to cross and how they would attempt to cross. So
Right.
yeah, I mean the black market is just like any other market. It's going to adapt to whatever we throw at it. They're going to adapt to it.
Right. I mean, prices increase with the as
Exactly.
things get more dangerous too. And
Right.
we brought up the Rio Grande Valley. I'll tell you what, that that is fucking chilling. And I was okay. So this was 2012 or 13, and I'm driving truck, and I'm going from El Paso to Laredo, and I had a drop in Laredo, and then a pickup in Laredo, and then I was heading up to Houston. And so I'm heading from El Paso to Laredo, and I decided to take this route that just followed the border.
Hmm.
And I can't tell you exactly where I was because it was like 2 o'clock in the fucking morning, and I'm the only person on this road other than I'd see one of the border patrol like SUVs over sitting on the side or whatever
Hmm.
every once in a while.
Probably sleeping.
But I got to this one spot, and I'd say this lasted for a little over an hour. This was going on, so probably about 60 miles because I think the speed limit on that road, if I remember correctly, was 65. So for about 60 miles, I remember seeing I was driving and there was this bright light. It just flashed, pow, and I was like, "What
Hmm.
the fuck was that?" And then here it comes around again a couple of minutes later, wow, and I'm like, "Jesus fucking Christ!" And I'm trying to watch the road, make sure no
Hmm.
animals run out in front of me or people, because I know I'm real close to the border. I know it's like probably about half a mile, to my west at
Hmm.
this point. And then it happened again, a big bright light, pow. And so I kind of just got the timing down and I looked up at just the right time as this light flashes and I could see the outline of a drone. And I
Hmm.
guess my truck had triggered something going down this road at this time of night. And so
Right.
this drone is taking pictures of me or some shit. I guess that's all it could be. But it's just
Yeah.
this bright fucking white light. I was just like, this is fucking insanity. Y'all have to stop this shit.
Right.
And this, like I said, it went on for about an hour. Like every few
Well,
minutes, just this bright light right in my face. I
and
was
yeah,
like,
I mean, trucks have been identified as, cargo trucks have been identified as one of the methods that they like to use.
yeah.
So yeah, if you pull off at a truck stop and 50 people jump in the back, you've already been through a check station. Like, so that's not surprising that they would be watching you.
Yeah, and that's when I realized they were using drones on the border.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, a lot of people like just found out this year, and I was like, no, this has been going on for a while. Like, this isn't something
yeah,
new.
yeah.
So,
And I mean, back when I kind of, when I still believed in the mission, I was a drone operator in Afghanistan, like kind of the one man drone, not like the big predator thing that you have a console and everything. It's kind of like an on the ground deal.
hmm
And I was banging on everybody's door about this. I'm like, hey, this would be a great asset for this, and nobody would listen to me, or they couldn't get it cleared or whatever. But I would not be the least bit surprised if those are, it's been 2 years now. Like, I would not be the least bit surprised to know that those are out there on top of, like you said, probably the bigger varieties of and there's so much out there, like, as far as technology. And this is all, like, this is all common knowledge. This is public information. There's sensors, cameras, mobile cameras, like all kinds of stuff that is out there. And I mean, it's helpful, but like your average, at least where I worked, those most people, the agents that you really respect and you want to learn from, most of them don't even use that shit. Most of them are just like, you know what, footprints don't lie. So the sensors can tell me whatever they want to, but I'm gonna follow the footprints until I catch them. And that was what we used.
yeah,
We relied on footprints. So, and even, they would try to put carpet over their shoes, or they'd, do different things to try to disguise themselves. But like, that was,
drag a
um,
sled behind them.
right, right.
Hmm
I think the most effective one I ever saw or heard of was paint roller. Use a dry paint roller.
Uh huh.
So you walk backwards, and if you're going across a road where Border Patrol is going to be looking, you just roll it out with a paint roller and keep going. And it's supposedly, I never tried it, but supposedly covers your tracks pretty well.
No shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
You get
good.
creative, man.
Good. Well, that's the whole. That's I guess that's what kind of drives me insane about, there's this, I don't see it as much in anarchist circles, but like in libertarian circles, and I was one of them, like even when I was working in the Border Patrol, I considered myself to be a libertarian because, I wanted people to determine their own fates and whatnot.
Right.
The part I was missing was that people also included non-Americans,
Right.
but
Right.
um, like there's still a chunk of libertarians that are not for, liberalized immigration.
Right.
And I'm like, actually, I lost my train of thought. What was I?
Oh, you were talking about, I was saying they get creative when trying to get across the border, and you're saying that's what a lot of libertarians do.
That's the black market aspect, the prohibition aspect.
Right.
Like you can't. I mean, you can't find a libertarian that won't agree with you on prohibition of alcohol or drugs or prostitution. But when you bring immigration, for some reason, that same prohibition doesn't ring true.
Right.
But that was the, kind of the hard lesson that I learned was it's exactly the same.
Hmm.
Every step, every measure that we're taking is doing the same thing that the drug war is doing and that the alcohol war was doing. You
Right.
know, we pass a law, we pass a statute, or we, build a wall or whatever, and the two things that are guaranteed to happen is American citizens' rights are going to be restricted, and two, whoever we're trying to stop is going to get richer and more powerful by whatever methods that we try to impose.
Yeah.
It's the same for drugs, sex work, and the flow of human beings, the flow of labor, or whatever you want to call
Right. Well, and there's so much, part of it, man, is a lot of libertarians, especially those that came over during the Ron Paul Revolution into the libertarian circles, traveled there through the Tea Party.
it.
And I don't know if you were involved in the Tea Party or anything like that,
I
but
was I, I was excited about it for about 3 or 4 months.
a month, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I no,
I went to
I'm
one
an op
meeting and I was like, oh, these
I'm
people are a fucking joke.
I'm an optimist. I gave it 3 or 4 months.
I went to one meeting. I was like, these people are a joke. But uh, one of the things I heard whenever I was first, when I was listening to Glenn Beck, and I was kind of I was dipping my toes into the Tea Party.
Uh-huh.
One of the things I heard was this rumor that these people, when they're being snuck over the border, they're getting marching orders on how to receive benefits, on how to file for all these entitlement programs and this, that, and the other, and they're coming over here and with fake social security numbers, and
Hmm.
they know how to take advantage of the system. How much of that how much paperwork did you confiscate from these people on how to take advantage of the American system?
Um, some,
Yeah.
not much. So like there was one guy that I apprehended who he was actually a field worker, which a lot of people don't know this, but Border Patrol is prohibited from um, so the agricultural workers that work along the border, we're prohibited from spot checking them. So we can't just like go to an agricultural operation and start checking papers.
Right.
It's not allowed. But if we have other intelligence or other articulable facts, so that's God, that's something I need to get your listeners or anybody that will freaking listen is when you have an interaction with law enforcement, ask them what their articulable facts for investigating you are. because that's what they're going to have to put in their report afterwards. So, everybody that's videotaping and all this stuff, ask them, what are the articulable facts that initiated your investigation into me? Because if they tell you one thing and then they put something different in their report, that's a lie. They have to keep that consistent. And most of the time, they don't have any I don't know. Most of the time may not be correct. Very often, they don't have any articulable facts. They're coming up on you because they think, this guy's up to no good. Let me figure out. And then once they figure out what's going on, well, they've got the rest of their shift to write a report about you.
Right.
So if you have any, this is just for your listeners, if you have any interaction with law enforcement, ask them what their articulable facts for their investigation into you are. And if you can document those and show that they're different from what they write in their report, you've got a pretty good case. That's a tangent. I'll try to get back to your original question. So, I happen to lawfully find myself in an interaction with this field worker, and I asked for his identification. He ended up having like a false ID and a false social security card. So we apprehended him and did the normal process. That was like a 1 in a few hundred, probably. Like once in a while we would stumble across somebody but normally, I don't think ever we came across somebody who was freshly across the border with documents that, like false documents or anything like that. Normally
that's
was
actually what I was talking about. What I was
okay.
talking about is there was a rumor. Like I said, this was back during the Tea Party, so I'm trying to remember exactly what they were claiming. But there was a rumor that these people were getting basically like step-by-step guides, like little pamphlets telling you how to manipulate the American system.
Right. So supposedly the Department of Homeland Security had instructions for applying for food stamps and welfare benefits on their home site.
Okay.
Which I believe was true. But what nobody ever really reported was even legal immigrants. So if you're an illegal immigrant, you're not even eligible. But legal immigrants, unless you're in some kind of special category, I believe it's 5 years you have to be here before you can even apply for benefits.
Right.
So so I brought up the false documents thing because that's the only way that I know of that anybody coming across can get any kind of benefits.
Yeah.
Is by using false documents. But I guess the point I was trying to get to there was crossing the border is innocuous. It's I'm as a libertarian or as an anarchist or whatever I want to identify as, I'm still against fraud to I'm against stealing a person's identity in order to receive state benefits. So
right.
that's a separate crime.
Right.
Crossing the border in order to try to get a job to improve your station in life or to improve your life in general or to provide for your family, there's nothing about that I think should be illegal. Stealing somebody's identity in order to get benefits, I do have a problem with that.
Right.
I don't want to. Right. So I guess that's what I see too often is people conflating those or automatically assuming that, well, they crossed the border, so they're automatically going to commit X, Y, and Z crime. Like, no, crossing the border should have absolutely nothing to do with what happens after they do once they get here.
Right. Well, and also they kind of miss the point of who these people are that are crossing the border. These are not wealthy individuals that are crossing the border.
Right.
All right. So you're talking about a person who spent five, 10, $15,000 just to get across the border is now
Right.
also dumping another, what, $6,000 on documentation to fraudulently, manipulate the system. That a lot of times they're not they're not trying to do that. They're just trying to accomplish the getting across the border thing. You
Right.
know.
So, and I'm glad, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because that goes back to the human trafficking question that you asked earlier. So yeah, so the vast majority of the people that we saw were Guatemalans, some Hondurans and El Salvadorans, but the vast majority were from Guatemala. And most of those were like, they didn't speak Spanish. They were, up in the mountains. They still spoke, kind of ancient Mayan dialects. A lot of the
Wow.
adults didn't even speak Spanish. The kids usually spoke some Spanish and they could kind of translate to the parents for us.
Hmm.
But most of the adults that we dealt with would speak, um, Quiche is one. There was a few others. I can't remember the names, but they were, Mayan dialects. Um, and so think about, you know, what we know about economy. How much money do you think a mountain woman from Guatemala who doesn't even speak Spanish, how much do you think she has laying around in her bank account?
Right. How long did it
Who,
take her to get that $10,000?
well, that's the whole thing, is that what we kind of assumed, and some people would tell us, that they would essentially take out loans. So they would go to, some of them would sell their property. Like if they owned some property, in the mountains or whatever, they'd sell it to the cartel for their fee to cross over. Some of
Uh,
them, if they weren't property owners, would just enter into a contract.
hmm.
So, um, so now you've got a mother and her child, or a father and and his child, who have a contract for whatever, $10,000 with some cartel, and now they come here and they have to work to pay that off.
Hmm.
So maybe they're not being, sexually exploited by, well, Epstein's not around anymore, so, Ghislaine Maxwell, but like, maybe they're not being
Bill
sold into
Clinton.
sexual, yeah, yeah. Clinton's not dipping his toes in there, but uh, so maybe they're not being sold into sexual slavery,
Hmm.
but like they're still essentially modern day indentured servants.
Right. Well, and that kind of leads me to another point that's always been a point of contention for people is, well, they come here and work and they send the money back to Mexico to their families. Well, maybe they're not sending it to their family. Maybe
Right.
they're sending it to the cartel, so the cartel doesn't come over here and cut their heads off,
Right.
or whatever they're
Well,
gonna do.
at least for a period, at least until they have paid that debt off to get them over here, that's, at least some of them, that's where the money is going.
Well, all of us,
Um,
all of us remember, like, all of us know the stories of the mob and how dangerous it was to be in debt to the
mm,
mob and to not pay them. I mean, and the cartels are, if nothing else, more barbaric than the mob
oh my
ever
God.
was. You
So,
know.
so this is something when I was in the military, and I went to Iraq first and then Afghanistan afterwards. But I was that kind of soldier where I was like, I want to know my enemies. So I watched every single one of those decapitation videos,
Hmm.
every one of those, and I'm probably desensitized to a degree from watching that stuff, but
Right.
like, I wanted to know my enemy's capabilities.
Hmm.
I don't look at people as my enemy anymore, but that was my mindset then. And when I started in the Border Patrol, I did the same thing. I went to all of you know, those websites that show the cartel violence.
Right.
And the cartel violence is fucking way worse than the Islamic terrorist stuff.
Yep.
Those cartels are brutal.
Hmm.
They're just, it's like, it's so despicable and disgusting. They go to lengths that these Islamic terrorists don't even approach.
Right.
And, kind of probably your 2D thinker out there is like, well, then why would you support open borders? Well, because it's not the borders that are our problem. It's our drug laws that are giving those people that kind of power.
Right.
So I don't support open borders in a vacuum. I support open borders along with ending the drug war and taking the power away from these fucking animals.
Right. And see, one, this is a conflation that a lot of people make too. It's because we're against national or state border um, controls. We're
Right.
not against personal property border controls.
Right.
We're not saying that you have to allow them, to shop in the supermarket you own. We're not saying you have to allow them to eat in your restaurant. We're not saying you have to allow them in your kitchen. We're just saying that the nation or the states shouldn't have that type of power to confiscate in a lot of cases. I don't know how Arizona is, but I know in Texas that's a big deal. A lot of people live on the border, right
Hmm.
on the river. There's even a one guy, if they do build the fence to his property, it'll put his house on the Mexico side of the fence, even though he's still in America and he
Hmm.
still lives in America because they have to build the fence 200, I think it was like something like 200 feet north of the Rio Grande. So his house being directly on the river, overlooking the river, would end up being on the Mexican side of the river, and he wouldn't
Right.
be able to access, things in his town, and
Right.
stuff like that. So we're against that. That's what we're against.
Yeah.
Like, or there's that butterfly refuge that's right on the border, and if they build the fence, it's going to go right through the middle of the butterfly refuge, and it's going to
Right.
destroy this lady's property. You know
Interrupt
that
all kinds of not natural order that's already going on.
Right. And so that's where people are missing the the entire point of the conversation. It's not I'm not against border security. I'm against national or state border security because I don't believe that is powers that we should be legitimizing for the government. Because then it will be used on top of eminent domain and be more restrictive on our
Right.
personal private property rights.
So on, I've got a couple of things. I hope I don't forget. um,
You go where you want to go, man. I know you still had some
so
notes we got to get to, and we're already 50 minutes
on
in.
on one of those points, so last year, Students for Liberty invited me to DC to speak at their SFL conference,
Right.
the LibertyCon 2019. So originally, I was supposed to just give a speech by myself, and then we talked and worked things out, and I ended up giving a panel discussion with Alex Narasta, who's um, one of Cato's immigration policy experts, and um, God, I feel bad because I always forget this guy's name, but he was a philosopher um, who.
Stephen Molyneux? No, I'm just playing.
No,
I'm
no, no.
kidding. It was a joke.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say. No, so he works for a publication, a Randian publication called the Objective Times, I think it was.
Not
But anyway, so
Jeffrey
he
Tucker,
so
is it?
no, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
Although that Jeffrey Tucker was at LibertyCon, and that dude has like the best looking suits I've ever seen. I'm like, if I ever make enough money, I'm gonna drop Jeffrey Tucker a line and be like, "Who made your suits?" Because I want to look like that.
Him or Roger
Anyway,
Stone, but
yeah, Roger Stone, like Roger Stone, the one guy that actually looks like a comic book villain.
right.
Um, so on this panel, it was actually a really good discussion, but for some reason it never got recorded, and I can't find it anywhere. But the philosopher guy, he was talking. Somebody asked a question about borders, and he's like, borders were never meant to be a checkpoint where like, oh, you can or can't enter. It was just supposed to be a signification of this is where our authority starts and yours stops. So like, feel free to come across the line. Just know that you're not subject to the laws on the other side of the line anymore. You're subject to our laws.
Yeah.
And that was something, I mean, I'd worked on the border for how long? 7 years, and had never even like thought of that concept that like, oh, it's not a keep out line. It's not a do not cross line. It's just an indication of, okay, now you're playing by our rules.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with my house. Like I've got a fence around my yard, but like if you ask, if most people that are going to come to my door, if they ask to come, if they need something, I'm going to let them in and get them what they need. So
Yeah.
I think most people kind of feel that way. So just it's a weird, and this kind of goes back to mission creep. Like it's a weird way that we've thought about borders, that we've as a country or as a society have begun to think about borders in a way that they're exclusionary rather than significant.
Well,
Like
didn't that start with Chavez?
ah
Because
um
he was extremely communist, socialist, but his entire thing was that
you're talking like the United Farm Workers Chavez,
yes, yes, yes.
right?
Um, his entire thing was that the workers of the United States couldn't be protected as long as there were people coming from over the border
Right,
to work for lower prices,
right,
so that
and
the union couldn't monopolize that industry.
right. And I chuckle because I mean I'm here in Arizona. Every Chavez Day, there's like they have a national holiday or whatever, a holiday for them. Every Chavez Day, there's billboards up all over the place, and I'm like, oh, you mean that guy that used to like turn people into the border patrol for coming across to try to
Right.
work?
Yeah.
Like that guy? Oh, that's the guy we're honoring now. Oh, let's just combine his and Christopher Columbus. We can
Yeah.
like celebrate them all together.
But I mean, I
Uh,
don't know if he's the one who actually started, the idea, but I think he popularized it.
oh, he definitely popularized it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
I mean, my chiropractor when I lived in Yuma, when I was still in the Border Patrol, but I was, this was kind of like on my way out. My chiropractor was a first generation immigrant. He was born in, I think it was Matamoros, Mexico, came here, raised his whole family in the U.S.
mhm,
Huge Trump supporter.
mhm,
I mean, he was friendly with me and understood my plight, but he was a build that wall guy. And I was just like, what fucking universe am I living in that,
yeah,
you know, white as white can be me is trying to stick up for, the people of the world, and my guy who's a first generation immigrant is like, yeah, build that wall, Trump. Bring it to us. I'm like,
I kind of get some of their point of view on that though. Some of these guys are like, I sat in line for years. I went through
right,
the process. I spent all
right,
this money and this time, and then you got people shortcutting it.
yeah,
Like, why can't they just do it the way I did it? Like, I kind of get
yeah.
that. I kind of get the idea of the whole fairness argument, But my mama always told me life isn't fair.
No,
Um,
you're right. You're right. Like I have to remind myself that I I am purposefully a radical thinker. Like I
right, right. Yeah,
purposefully,
we do everything in our impossible to think consistently. We want
right,
to be consistent. So like
right,
if we find like an inconsistency, then we gotta fight that within our
right.
minds. Most people don't worry about that shit,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what makes a lot of us. I mean, it drives a lot of us crazy when we're trying to talk to people because most people are like, I don't give a shit if I'm being inconsistent. Makes sense
Right.
to me, you
Yeah,
know.
it works out for me.
Yeah, yeah. So what does it fucking matter if I'm being inconsistent? Who cares, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely like just a difference in the way we think, but it's the time we've spent thinking that a lot of people don't spend that time thinking, you know.
God, and I wish they would. I wish they would.
I think I've pretty much given up even wishing that
Yeah,
much. I certainly
yeah.
don't even try to tell them that they're being inconsistent. I'm just like, okay.
Well,
I just mock them and move on.
I'll freaking talk with anybody, man. Like I haven't been to church in a decade or more, and one of the last podcasts I did was on a Christian podcast,
Yeah.
and like he's Godarchy, like he's an anarchist, but he's a
Oh,
Christian anarchist.
Mike's awesome. I know Mike. Yeah.
Mike is great.
Yeah.
Mike is like, and like you know. I'm like, dude, open a church and I'll go to your church.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been on my podcast like 2 or 3 times. I was texting him the other day. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
love Mike.
Mike's freaking great. Oh, so I did remember the second point that I wanted to get to,
No, sorry,
and
I threw you off the rails there.
no, it's fine. I love just letting the conversation go. But since I actually did remember it, I want to bring it up.
Yeah, go.
So the weird thing is the drug war deal.
Mm,
If we by some fucking stroke of luck or wave of a magic wand, we're able to end the drug war. And obviously this shit won't happen overnight.
right.
But eventually, so I'm still friends with some BORTAC guys.
Hmm.
So those guys, the
In
secret
Portland.
police
Yeah, the
in Portland
guys.
snatching people up. Yeah, those are BORTAC guys. So
Mhm.
these are like kind of maybe a step down from like your Green Beret. Like these are some badass dudes.
Hmm.
These guys go, they're wildly physically fit, mentally tough. These are they're good guys. I'm friends with some of them, but they're like dudes you do not want to fuck with.
Right.
These guys like in small teams go out in the middle of nowhere with no support and hunt down either drug traffickers who they know might be armed, or there's something called a RIF crew who they're basically rival drug traffickers who try to rip off their rivals' loads.
Right.
So those guys are always armed. So these guys go out in the middle of the desert where it's like, I mean, if you've ever been in like desolate middle of the desert, it's spooky. And I've spent many, many, many nights out there. It's spooky being like all by yourself in wilderness in the middle of nowhere like that.
Yeah.
So these guys like go out there as a matter of course and like hunt down these dudes that they know are armed or probably armed. So those are the guys that we've sent to Portland to quell the freaking like graffiti artists.
Which is scary as fuck. Yes.
Right. And the Washington Post just recently released something saying that like a White House official has confirmed that this is nothing to do with law and order. This is all about getting good viral videos. Have you seen that?
No,
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
This is the Washington, and I'm not a Washington Post subscriber, so I was only able to get the quote. But basically, they said this is not about changing the tide or like anything. This is about getting viral videos.
Yeah.
So like,
It's about the election.
right, exactly.
Yep.
So, anyways,
Mobilize those Trump supporters.
before I left, and so the BORTAC guys, they have a different station, a different compound, so I don't see them on a very regular basis. But
Right.
I was able to like chat with some of these guys before I quit and before I left.
Hmm.
I was like, hey, how's things going? What's been new? They're like, man, nothing. Like, this is supposed to be our busy season, and there's nothing going on. So, just like, this is anecdotal, but it's like, these are guys who just a couple of years ago were like going out there and just like nabbing drug traffickers, just swooping in, snatching these guys up,
Hmm.
getting, prosecuting these cases and now they've got nothing to do because, well, it's legal in California, Colorado, essentially legal in Arizona.
Right.
It's legal in like the majority of Western states.
Right.
These guys don't have anything to do anymore.
Right.
So that's, I mean, as if you didn't, if you didn't need any other philosophical proof that like the same prohibition with alcohol would apply to street drugs. Like, this is, I'm talking to my buddies, they're like, dude, we got nothing to do. We go out there and there's just nothing going on. So I guess that brings me back to the majority of the reasons why people are leaving Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador are these drug gangs. And if we give those drug gangs no reason to exist and no ability to hold that power anymore, I could almost guarantee that fewer people are even going to try to come to the US.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I can see that,
not
but
that I mean, not that I'm like, fuck, if you want to come to the US and make a better life, like, dude, I don't want, I'm in Arizona. I don't want to put roofs on houses. I
right.
don't, and I'm a tradesman. I do carpentry. I do not want to be a roofer. So if there is somebody from any fucking corner of the world that wants to come to Arizona and put roofs on houses, please
Feel
come,
free. Yeah,
be my guest. I don't want to do that. That sucks.
yeah,
So I'm not saying like I don't want people to come. Come on, like if you want to like come and be a part of our society, go ahead. But if you're an immigration restrictionist, the best thing you can do to restrict immigration is end the drug war, because you're creating a better environment. Like the environment that these people are leaving in droves, you're going to eliminate that to a degree.
right. Yeah. The only small pushback I would give you, and it's not like I it not to say that it would be at the same level it is now, but you
Right.
look at as after alcohol was legalized in the U.S., the mafia didn't disappear. I mean, they just found
Right.
other rackets to get involved in.
Right. But what are they in now? Gambling and
Yeah, I mean,
prostitution.
prostitution, gambling, money laundering. Who
Right.
knows? I mean, I know they
Oh
still
yeah.
exist, but they're
I
not
guess
they're not
ID
powerful by any stretch of the imagination
ID
anymore.
theft is the new big thing that the organized crime is getting into. Like
Yeah, but
they're
then they gotta compete with those young hackers that I
right.
don't I don't think
Right.
they can compete with. But yeah, so it's not going to eliminate the cartels, and we're not
No.
we're not by any stretch of the imagination not being utopian. Well, I'm just clarifying for people that would be like, but there's other things. Yeah,
No,
okay,
you're
there are
right.
other
You're
things.
right. I speak about it kind of not flippantly, but like in broad strokes. You're right. Like it's not a fix all, but it's
But it would also end a lot of the violence, because if you look at what
right.
happened after the legalization of alcohol in the United States, a lot
Right.
of the violence was curbed,
Yeah. I mean, even if they do
especially the
transition
violence
to
against cops.
yeah.
It kind of remained between the families after that. There was not like all this external casualties taking place.
Well,
That and
that's something that gets glossed over in the media in the U.S. Like, so what is it? Like 60% of the gun deaths are suicides, right?
something like that. Yeah, I know it's
So
high.
it's a huge number of the gun deaths are suicides, and a vast majority of the others are from people that they know. So this is an individual gets involved with another individual that they probably know is up to something no good, and ends up becoming a part of that violence. So
Yeah,
it's not like this idea. So that kind of drives me insane about the American media coverage of gun violence in the U.S. Like, as far as the numbers I've seen and the way I understand it, the majority of gun violence occurs to it's there's like the idea of random violence is almost unheard of.
mm,
Like,
yeah,
almost everybody that is involved in some sort of violence is involved with somebody that they know, and it's a personal beef, or it's like you
Yeah,
know.
but they're not going to tell you about that because it's not near as scary as telling you about the guy on the court
Right,
steps,
right.
shooting up a crowd. I mean, they're trying. This is fear porn.
Yeah,
And seeing that Joe Bob killed Billy Bob isn't near as scary as seeing that Kevin Ashley Garland shot up 60 people that he didn't know at a concert.
right.
It's just, especially you got to throw that middle name in there to make him sound really notorious.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you really gotta like linger on that middle name.
Yeah, it's like the middle, the media version of your parents calling you by your middle name when you're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's even scarier if the guy has three first names. John Wesley Tyler. Oh man, that's a bad dude. He probably ate people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so but well, we're over an hour, man. What was it that there were specific topics you want to touch on? Let's get to one real quick.
So the I guess I'll get to the one I told you about Pete and I after Pete and I's last podcast, we had a conversation afterwards, and he's like, "Man, why didn't you bring this up during the podcast?" So I'll bring that up.
Okay.
Um,
And then I'll let Pete
so
correct me after this. He can call you up and be like, you know what? That motherfucker has no idea what he's talking about. Get back on my podcast.
right. Uh, it, so there was this idea in border patrol work that so when you're new to the patrol and you're trying to figure out how everything goes, like you don't learn anything in the academy. Like you learn all the law shit and you get out of the academy and you're like, okay, I know a bunch of laws and I don't know how to do my job. Well, you go through like an on-the-job training program at your station to actually learn how to do the job. And one of the main things that they focus on is identifying yourself, and that helps in prosecuting your case. They say, so the funny thing, so we have to learn everything in Spanish,
Okay.
and the Spanish way to say I'm a border patrol agent is soy agente de la patrulla fronteriza, which is my white boy Spanish. It's not very good, but that's literally means I am a border patrol agent.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I've said that phrase and gotten a blank ass look.
Really?
The because most Mexicans that we interacted with don't speak proper Spanish. They
No,
speak
they just
slang
say la
Spanish.
migra.
Yeah, so that's what I eventually ended up getting into was soy la migra. Soy
Yeah.
la migra. It's just so much easier. It rolls off the tongue. But
Yeah, you
so
should have called me, dude. I grew up in Katy, Texas, right outside of Houston. I could have told you that.
you're right. Yeah, I like to learn the hard way. Um, but like that's kind of a hard thing to get into, like the identifying yourself, because when you're just like you're sitting there and you're doing your job and everything's normal, and then oh shit, I saw some footprints, so I'm gonna start chasing it, da, 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 and you finally catch the person and like adrenaline's flowing and you don't know what's going on. Like the first probably 5 times I caught anybody, I just straight up forgot to identify myself. And so and you have to write a report after every encounter.
Right.
So I'd write my report, and then I'd take it to a supervisor to put his initials on it to verify that he okayed it.
Right.
And they kept telling me like, oh, well, you didn't put that you identified yourself. And I'm like, well, I didn't. I'm not going to lie in my report. And they're like, oh, well, you were in your truck, right? Yeah. Well, it has the Border Patrol logo on it, right?
Yeah, it's got the
Well,
insignia.
you were in uniform, right? Right? Yeah, well, so you identified yourself by wearing your uniform and your service vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I mean, I would still protest, and like maybe the first time I let them get by with that, and I was like, after that, I was just like, no, I'm the one that's gonna have to go to court over this. I'm not gonna put that in my report. So until I got into the habit of identifying myself, I wouldn't put that in my report. Well,
Right.
that's something that's been like sticking out to me with these Portland things. Like these guys are in fucking camo in the middle of a city. Why are you wearing camo in the middle of a city? Like camo in the middle of a desert to
It's
track down drug.
intimidation.
Right.
You're
But
looking at military. You're not looking at, I mean that's kind of the image it's given out. It puts forth this a psychological image. It's like we were talking about beforehand. Even you having been law enforcement, getting pulled over and seeing the blue and red lights in your rear view
right,
mirror makes you nervous. It's that psychological, you know, damage that it does to a person.
right. And so I guess my worry is that, I mean, it's pretty, like, that's pretty standard, whether it's local PD, Border Patrol, whatever.
Right.
By policy, you're supposed to announce who you are before you begin the interaction.
Right.
So these guys who are there, they're being called the secret police or whatever. Like, what precedent are we setting by, obviously some media outlets are covering this, and some people are upset about this, but largely I'm seeing a lot of comments on Twitter, people just feeling like, oh, well, they shouldn't have been out there. Oh, well, they shouldn't have been, whatever. What precedent are we setting that's saying, well, oh, we don't have to have, and that's even assuming that the previous scenario that I set out, like, if you're an immigrant from Mexico crossing the border, you don't know what the patch on my shirt says.
Yeah, you don't know what my truck says. It's not written in Spanish.
Right.
I've seen the Border Patrol trucks. None of them are written in Spanish.
Right. So, but that's supposed to qualify as me identifying myself.
Right.
Well, I'm speaking English here in America, and I'm seeing these guys in Portland, and I have to zoom in to even see the subdued patches that these guys are wearing.
Yeah, they were very small. They had like this little patch on their sleeve, and
right.
Yeah, it was really
right.
strange. And
So
and then there are people defending it. Yo, no, they're marked. They're wearing marked uniform. I'm like, oh, come on, man. That's that's like saying a cop hiding behind the trees wasn't trying to, entrap you. That's bullshit.
Right. So, like that combined with the statement from that Washington Post article that, oh, we're not out there trying to, solve the problem. We're trying to get good viral videos. Like, to me, this is just, it's a dangerous path we're going down, that, like, oh, well, our law enforcement don't really need to be properly identified because, they're out there doing the right thing and these protesters are doing the wrong thing. Like, that just seems, I mean, it's...
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't even say they're doing the right thing. And this is what I was trying to tell some leftist friends of mine that were defending the protests. And I'm like, look, man, my mama always told me 2 wrongs don't make a right. If you keep fucking around and destroying property and doing all this bullshit, the federal government's going to react, and you're not going to like that reaction. You people think you know what fucking violence is. You think you know what a revolution is. You're about to get your fucking asses handed to you, and you better cut it the fuck off, because you're going to get hurt. Like, people are going to get really fucking hurt. And this isn't fucking funny. You're playing with people's lives here. And you're out there LARPing revolution and playing this fucking game. And it's like I had brought up in our Slack chat the other day after this whole Portland thing, that some of the leftists were like, well, Portland is 300 miles away from the Canadian border, so Border Patrol can't fuck around in Portland. Like, no, motherfucker, it's 80 miles from the fucking ocean. That's it. Like, you're fucked. It's right there. It's at a border. I don't give a shit. You're within 100 miles. So, I mean, y'all can fucking try to play this, well, that's not a border, that's an ocean. No, that's a fucking border. Sorry. I mean, I don't know how to tell you this any nicer way, and yeah, sending these guys out there in fatigues and, or in BDUs, and to go after, protesters, children, for the most part, they're fucking kids. They're brains aren't even developed properly to know what the hell's going on.
If I was 23 right now, I can't even, I mean, it's one of those things, like, I'm so glad to be at the age of maturity I am now, because, I was
apolitical, but I don't know in today's day and age if you can be apolitical at that age.
Right, right. Post 9/11, it's hard to be.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just out. I was out getting too drunk when I was 23, and not a lot's changed. Um, but yeah, man, it's a psychological warfare on top of and it's not only meant to scare the people that they're taking into custody. I mean, it really looks like a commando force
Yeah.
dropping into a foreign country and pulling in POWs. I
Hmm.
mean, that's what it looks like. I mean, that's psychologically damaging to these
Right.
kids. And so, yeah, it's meant to send fear and terror. Get a viral video. You're doing some crazy, off the wall, commando shit in the middle of a U.S. city. Yeah, that video is gonna go fucking viral. There ain't no
Well,
lie
and
about that.
I mean, I'm personally like I'm a little disappointed in, and I guess it's kind of weird for me to say this, but like, this organization that I've completely turned my back on, even though I still have some friends that are still in there.
Well, you have some respect for the people that
Right,
are
right.
are
I
following
guess
these orders, and you're like, I'm disappointed because
right.
I
I guess
know
I
who you guys are.
right. I wish like okay, you get the order to go to Portland. Fine. You can't if you care about your career, you can't disobey that order. Fine. I get that. Now, if it were me, the way I would have handled that is I would have showed up to Portland and I would have stood there and I would have stood there and I would have collected my paycheck and I just would have stood there. Like these guys are with gusto just beating the fuck out of people. And that's where I'm like, these are your fellow citizens. Disagree with them politically. That's one thing. You're beating the fuck out of them and you're spraying them for standing there and talking to you.
Yeah.
That there was two different veteran videos, one veteran medic and one veteran that Navy guy.
Then
They were
I saw the Navy guy.
right. They were talking to the veteran medic. He was an older guy. It was even worse than the Navy guy because the Navy guy they kind of like told him get out, get out, get out. The medic guy they didn't even tell him. Somebody just like came up from the side and sprayed him right in the face. And I've been sprayed with pepper spray. Like that's part of what we have to do in the academy.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been punched, kicked, tased. I mean, you name it. I'd take any of that shit over being pepper sprayed again.
Yeah.
That stuff sucks. That is like, I mean, in the moment, it's like an hour of just complete misery, but the rest of your day is fucked. Like,
Right.
the rest of your day, you're just miserable.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think that's what's really, one of the things that's really bugging me is like,
Well, in that shit that they're using now, man, that's not like your old school fucking pepper spray. That's
right,
like
right,
bear mace. That
right.
shit shoots out like a
No,
goddamn like a fire extinguisher.
and it's a super high percentage. Like when I got sprayed,
What are they making it out of nowadays? Is it still cayenne peppers or
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
still
I think it's like
God
cayenne and
damn.
habanero and whatever. But
Jesus.
it goes off of the percentage of OC. So I think most civilian types of OC are like under 5%. I think this is like 10%.
Fuck.
Like my ears and around my neck were just peeling the
Yeah.
day, like for several days after getting sprayed.
Right.
And then that's the good, like that's the bright side. These dudes that are losing eyes with
Yeah, man.
the rubber
The
bullets and the
rubber
pepper
bullets,
balls and
man.
stuff.
That I saw some chick. It looked like she had a third eye in the middle of her head.
Right. And
Oh
like
my God. Or did you
it's
see the video on the Free Thought Project when the two cops did a drive-by on these three kids?
mm,
Oh my God, that I was like, fuck these people, man.
yeah,
They rolled up and there's these like three, they look like, I don't know, 13, 14-year-old kids with their bikes just bullshitting, just talking, walking down the sidewalk. And these cops roll up and then stop. And this one cop hangs out the window and starts shooting rubber bullets at these kids.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, they're not even at a protest, man. Like
Right.
they're not
And
doing anything.
So this is something that, because I my mom's a Trump supporter, and I think my dad's a Joe Jorgensen this time around. But like, I go have breakfast with my parents each week, and we talk politics with that kind of family.
Right.
But so I don't know if it's just like because I don't watch Fox News and I'm not seeing the other side of the story or whatever. But like the only stuff that I'm seeing is these, whether it's the BORTAC or marshals or the local PDs or whatever. I'm not seeing anybody like going after the people actually committing any violence.
They're
They're
not.
just gra-
I've
they're
said it
just
before.
grabbing the first easiest target and just beating the shit out of it and then going to the next. Like it's just grabbing whatever is easiest, the
Look,
smallest.
here's what I've seen. All the rioting and looting that keeps popping up is happening after the sun goes down at
Hmm.
dark, right? All the videos you see of the cops going after people is in the middle of the day with
Yeah,
these people just standing around.
right.
And that's what I'm having a problem with. I'm like, wait. If you want to go after the rioters and looters, that's fine. But this is what I was telling my friends on the left. Y'all open a can of worms you don't want to fuck with because these people aren't going to discriminate. They don't
Right.
care, you
Yeah,
know?
they're just like, oh, I get to into, you can't tell me that somebody that joins up for that job, I was one of them, dude. Give me an opportunity to use the tools that I'm given to enforce the law. Sure, I will. But they're not do what I'm seeing is not that.
Right.
They're not do It's not enforcing the law. It's just like wanton grab whatever's closest to you and beat the shit out of it.
Right. And I can actually tell just by like the way your tone has changed, like the disappointment you feel,
Yeah,
knowing that you were part of that at one time, saying like, I knew these guys, like I admired these guys, I respected these
right.
guys, like we were buddies.
Well,
Like
the
the
crazy thing
guy the
is,
guy I know wouldn't act like that, you
right.
know.
I mean, like if when I would go into the parking lot at my border patrol station, there were tons of Gadsden flags and the Molon Labe or whatever. Like these are guys that at least in some way identify with like liberty or small government principles or whatnot, not realizing that, well, I'm part of DHS, I'm not part of, DHS is not small government. But at least they had that idea in their head that like, you know we're all citizens, we're all here, we're all part of the same club, we'll treat each other with a level of respect.
Right.
But, and in fact, I just remembered this, my last day in the border patrol, um, one of so our use of force instructor was like this badass. I think he's like a black belt jujitsu guy. um he's had legit cage match fights and everything.
Hmm.
Pretty badass dude. um and he kind of was wandering through the hallways and bumped into me and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Well, I actually just quit today." He's like, "What?" you know
Yeah.
and he's like, "What are you gonna go join Antifa?" And I'm like, "I don't know, we'll see, I guess." But like, I
It wasn't
guess
on the to-do list, but
it
now
wasn't
that you
on this, like,
mention, huh,
right, like, I mean, I am technically anti-fascist. I'm not gonna be out there in the streets, but fucking, uh, yeah, that just kind of, that thought just popped into my head that like maybe they don't see these people as their fellow citizens. But
may,
that's,
maybe not. And I've always like when I was in the military, it was always kind of the trope that everybody said, was kind of that quote that's attributed to Voltaire is I may not agree with the way that you exercise your freedoms. I may not agree with everything you say, but I will defend to the death your right to
right,
say it or to
right.
exercise your freedoms in that way. And so that was always kind of the mentality I had. And I think that kept me in the conservative mindset and the conservative, kind of what I always kind of refer to as the conservatarian kind
Hmm.
of arena for longer than I probably should have.
Yeah,
And it took, I mean, and honestly, to hearing Judge Napolitano say, well, being called an anarchist isn't so bad. And I'm like, wait, what? You know, so, you know, so it was always kind of one of those things
Yeah.
that I still kind of find my instincts at times pulling me in that direction, and I have to, you know, stop my emotional reaction and actually think about it, and that's what I've learned how to do, is to stop that knee jerk, like, yeah, fuck those motherfuckers, and go, okay, like, what's happening here? Like, what are we actually looking at, you know? And so I think that's really important, an important transition that you've made, and I think that the you're kind of going through like the steps of grief whenever you're
Yeah.
seeing your
Yeah.
your former colleagues acting in this way.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That's. I haven't thought about that way, but I think you're definitely onto something there.
yeah, because I mean, I can't, I
Steps
can't,
of grief.
I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine looking at, see, like the people I served in the military with, like one of the few guys I still remain in touch with. He's at the Pentagon. But
Uh-huh.
when we talk, we don't talk about his job and what they're doing. I've just never, I don't know what his security clearance is, anything like that. I don't care. I don't really care to know that much
Hmm.
about what he's doing. He knows that I stand where I stand. I
Hmm.
I don't know if he knows why I stand where I stand, but he knows I do. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to let. I try not to let it get in the way of our friendship. You know what I'm saying? That's not.
Hmm.
We don't talk enough for me to sit there and lecture him on why he should quit now, and or whatever. Like, it's just not my place, the way I look
Right.
at it. But I mean, that was like that was what, like you said, it was 2 years ago, man. You were working with these guys. You knew
Yeah.
these guys. Like, this was 2003. I was in the military. That was a long
Yeah.
time ago. So it's just like you're seeing this, like, they didn't change that much, from when I was there. They're
Right.
still the same guys. They're still doing the same job.
Yeah.
So what happened? Like, was I that oblivious to the kind of people I was working with and the character flaws that they had? So yeah, I can completely understand kind of your reluctance and your kind of disappointment in the entire situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to been able to get on Twitter and be like, hey, look, these guys were called out there to go, be a show of force, and they showed up, but they just put their hands behind their backs and said, you know what, this is not our role. We're not going to take part in this. I
Right.
would have loved to have been able to be like proud of my guys and been like, yeah,
Or
you
they
know
only
what, I don't.
stepped in whenever things got out of hand.
Right,
They were
right,
riot control. You know.
right. Not breaking some 50-year-old veteran's hand for asking them if they still believed in the Constitution.
Right. Constitution, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, and that's kind of what you know Pete goes on about whenever he talks law enforcement. He's like, look, man, these guys don't give a shit about the Constitution. And it's sad, man, because I know cops, and I've brought up, like, you know different organizations, oath keepers and things like that to them, and
Hmm.
they're just like, oh, I don't want to talk about that shit. I,
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, wait. And and Pete says it all the time. They'll all tell you the same thing. If you don't like the laws, you need to vote for different politicians.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're basically admitting that the laws are at least flawed
Right.
and aren't
Well,
necessary.
it's like it's the subtext of I was only following orders, because like
Yes.
I'm not. It's not. They're not even admitting that I'm only following orders. It's like, well, I don't even care. I just want to get my paycheck and my
Yeah, it's it's
retirement.
it's it's not my call. Like, whatever.
Right. In fact,
I mean,
last day on the job, there was so. I'll try not to make this long because I know we've been on this for a while.
yeah, I'm
Uh,
already driving again. I don't know if you can hear the engine noise.
all right.
So it's all right.
So, um, I mean, my last several months there, like I'd talk shit here and there, but so what I did just for my personal um, sanity was I didn't want to be an enforcer anymore. So I stopped. Like I volunteered for processing duty, which is gross. It's, I mean, you've got hundreds of people who haven't showered in weeks, cooped up in a confined space, and you call them out one at a time to do their casework. Like it's a miserable. Like you're doing paperwork in an unhygienic situation. It's a miserable situation. But in my mind, I was like, well, at least I'm not actively out there putting my hands on people and taking their freedom away.
Yeah.
So my last few months in the Border Patrol, I spent doing that, and became friends with one of these, like a newer guy that, basically with that, if they didn't get volunteers, they went off to seniority. So the newer guys got picked and told to go to do that.
Right.
So it was basically like me and a couple other guys and then a bunch of new guys. So I started chatting with this new guy. He was, nice guy, interesting dude. And on my last day, he's like, dude, you're quitting? You're giving this up? With all the years you have in, like, why would you do that? And I tried to explain to him, a brief view of my philosophy. And he's like, dude, you actually think about this shit when you go home? And I was like, yeah. And sometimes it keeps me up at night. He's like, not me, dude. I go home and I don't think a bit about work. And I was like, well, that must be nice.
Yeah.
On one hand, well, yeah, I'd be making much better money if I could compartmentalize to that degree. But on the second hand, I'm like, BORTAC buddies that I recently got back in touch with, we were talking about me leaving. I was like, dude, every day that I put that uniform back on and showed up to work, I felt like my soul died a little bit more. And so I just had to go.
Well, it became a moral objection to you. It wasn't just
right.
a philosophical objection, right? The way he looked at it was like this was something that you were just thinking about, but this was something that was just eating you alive. It was morally, you felt like you were doing something immoral, and so that's a completely different story. It'd be like, well, I mean, 40% of law enforcement beat their wives, but let's say he was one of the 60% that didn't, and he went home and beat his wife every night. It would keep him up, maybe. I don't know. Possibly. Maybe he would sleep better because she would shut up. Who knows?
I'm all in favor 100% of anybody that brings up that 40% statistic. What? So we used to have these and it kind of reminds me of 1984 because right by the armory we had this big flat screen TV. And it would do public service announcements, DHS related public service announcements. And during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, there would always be these remember, don't beat your wife. Remember, throwing things at the wall counts as domestic violence. And I'm just in my mind, I'm like, who the fuck are these messages for? Because I'd never heard, when I was in, I'd never heard that statistic.
Yeah. And
after I got out, I was like, oh, I was probably working with, those 40%.
Somebody, yeah. Probably 40% of the people you were working with, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If they really wanted to put an end to it in law enforcement, what they would do is they would have a screen scrolling names. And with a score tally next to them of how many times they had beat their wife that month.
Right.
And just embarrass the shit out of them. Maybe they keep their hands to themselves.
Something's got to work.
Yeah, who knows, man.
Well, it's I think Pete says the same thing. He's like, I don't think people were meant to do this job.
Yeah, well, no, and it's not. It's see, here's one of my main things, and people cannot like you want to talk about compartmentalize. People cannot compartmentalize what I am saying about the job versus the people. I'm like, I'm not
Right.
talking about the people. I don't know these people as individuals. Like it could have been like with you, you knew these guys. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, and that's why when you see somebody that you possibly could have been, associated with doing something out of character, you're like, well, you're not the same guy. Like,
Right.
no, that's not who I fucking went and had a beer with after work. That's
Right.
not the type of person that I associate with BORTAC. Well, so I'm not talking about the individuals. The
Hmm.
individually, fine, they could all be perfectly gleeful, joyful, wonderful people that
Hmm.
are giving toys to tots and all that wonderful
Which
stuff.
is which is an interest like that you bring that up is an interesting thing. Like the in my experience, so I spent a little bit of time before I joined the Border Patrol. I was actually trying to go to the Special Forces selection for the Army,
Hmm.
and so I spent a little bit of time in a training program with them, and I would interact with actually the actual Green Berets, and it was the weird thing, and tell me if you had the same experience in the military. The more badass the dudes were, the nicer they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the SEALs, the Green Berets, those dudes, like they don't have anything to prove. They've already proved to themselves and their peers that they've got what it takes. So they're like the nicest guys you'll ever fucking meet.
Right. I had
The
my neighbor. I had gotten housing on post because I was married and I had kids, and my neighbor was an E5 that had just finished Sears training,
Mhm.
and him and his wife were probably the coolest people. You
Yeah.
know, they were just wonderful people. And I remember going through the PX on Bragg, the big PX on Bragg. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever been on Bragg,
Oh
but
yeah.
I was an E2 at the time, and there was this, and I'm wearing like a metal shirt. I don't even remember what shirt it was, but um, and I'm walking. I got my head shaved, and I got my Pantera shirt on or whatever. And there's this dude walking through there, and he had this big ass fucking beard and long hair, and big old built dude, probably about 6'4", 6'5". And he walks up, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, dude." And I'm like, "All right." And I started talking to him, and I've come to find out he was one of those that shall not be named, you know.
Mhm.
And it was just like, "Oh wow, like you're a fucking badass dude," you know. Like he was like an E7, he's like whatever. And I was
Right.
like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah." But yeah, it was it was the it was always the legs that had so much to prove, you know.
Right.
So
Right. It was the guy, yeah, especially like if they weren't airborne, like it
yeah,
was, they got to do something to make their play, to make their mark or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Especially if they came to brag to train,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like it was
Yeah.
like, come on, man, like we're just hanging out. So, it's like
Be
whatever.
cool, bro. Be cool.
Yeah. So, but I do remember one time I was carrying something for my first sergeant. He had me moving a couple of boxes of something for him, and so I'm carrying it from the barracks to his office, and it was uh it was a non-infantry. I don't know what their MOS was, but it was a captain come walking by, and I didn't put the box down and salute him, and he about shit himself. I think he was a new captain, and
Uh-huh.
he went off the rails, and I'm right outside of my first sergeant's office, and I was like, yes, yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Whatever. And I'm starting to put the box down, and my first sergeant comes running out. Don't you dare put that fucking box down. It's like, Roger, sergeant. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what to do now. And then he ripped that CO up one end and down the other, sent that motherfucker around off like a puppy with its tail between his legs, and he ended the whole thing by saying, "Don't you ever tell one of my soldiers what to do."
Right.
I was like, "Damn, all right, I know who's wearing the pants around here." And so,
Oh yeah. First sergeant always fucking wears the pants. I mean, the CO might make the call, First sergeant is daddy. First sergeant gets to say what goes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was
The
he
only
was
time I've seen that otherwise is a West Point grad. West Point grads usually, and those dudes go through so much shit to get through West Point. Like those guys can usually manage to
get away with
act,
about anything, huh?
actually, yeah, like actually figure out how to command a company. But if not, like if they're just some college grad that went to ROTC, like they don't fucking know anything about leadership. They first sergeant just calls the shots and they get to like say, yeah, yeah, that was my idea.
Yeah, yeah. Take all the credit for it.
Right.
So, you got anything else you want to cover?
No, I mean, I we could talk all day, but like I think we hit a bunch of the points that
We did hit a lot, and
yeah.
we ended just bullshitting about military. And
I was gonna say maybe we'll do another.
We may have heard enough brains today.
Right. I was gonna say maybe we can have another episode about just bullshitting about stupid stuff we did in the military, but
Most of the stupid stuff I did in the military is the reason that I was out of the military in less than in just over a year.
oh, okay. Well, this does sound like some good stories.
I did. It was honorable. If that
Well, okay. I was gonna say maybe we'll save that for the Slack channel.
Maybe. All right, man. Well, you got anything to plug? You writing anymore?
Uh, yeah. So I'm thinking about starting a blog just because like half the stuff I write, I don't even know who the fuck wants to publish it. But yeah. I mean, I write. So I know on our Slack channel we talked about the BORTAC before all this Portland stuff. BORTAC had gotten tapped to go assist ICE in rooting out, sanctuary cities. And I was, I talked to you and some of the other guys about writing an op-ed about that. And
Right.
I wrote it, but then the fucking pandemic hit and I became Mr. Teacher / carpenter when my kids got sent home from school. But so I never ended up actually publishing that. And that was like the last thing I really tried to write and get published. But so I'm always writing something, but it's like I'm my own worst critic, and it just depends on if I think it's good enough, if I actually send it to anybody to try to get published. But no, I mean, if I do end up starting the blog, I'll let you know. But other than that, I'm just kind of freewheeling it.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're all doing, just trying to keep our head
Right.
above water.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my kids started back to school this week, so we're like right now I'm just trying to keep up with
Mr.
all the
Mom.
new shit. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. I feel you. I understand, man.
But I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun.
Well, thank you, man. I'm glad we got to spend some time together. This was a good time. So
For sure.
So we'll definitely do it again here in a few weeks. Maybe things will settle down. Who knows? Maybe they'll open the schools back up there near you and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
all right, send the little critters over here.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll free up some time for me for sure.
There you go. All right, man. Well, we'll keep in touch.
All right, Tommy. Take care.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye. Well, that was Josh Childress. I'm Tommy Salmons. Late.